A successful garden isn't just about what seeds you choose or how perfectly you plant them or even how rich your soil is. A big part of the secret to a bountiful garden is in the maintenance. Today we're taking you along as we do some of the most important maintenance tasks that make all the difference in our garden. I aim for large, healthy root veggies that will store all year long in a cold room, and to achieve this, I have to be on top of garden tasks. Today we'll be hilling, mulching, thinning, and more. These aren't the glamorous parts of gardening, but they're the ones that lead to a garden that actually feeds our family.
I take care of pretty much everything on our homestead when it comes to the animals, but Michelle does most of the stuff in our garden. But on days like today, when we have a lot to do, I'm on hand to help. White potatoes are one of our main staple crops here on our homestead, so we try extra hard to stay on top of taking care of them and doing the things that we need to do to make sure we get the best crop possible. First thing we're gonna do today, I'm taking the wheel hoe through here just to loosen up the soil. Michelle weeded these not too long ago, so there's not a lot of weeds to take out, but we want to loosen up the soil so that we can hill them with dirt. That takes care of the green potato problem that we have had and a lot of people have. If the potatoes come up out of the ground and the sun is on them, that's when they'll turn green. So they need to be hilled, and then we're going to mulch them with leaves. By the way, this wheel hoe is one of the best investments we've ever made on our homestead. This dirt is so hard. This dirt right here in this spot is extra hard because our asparagus patch used to cover this whole area. We used to sell asparagus. We'd sell a ton of it. We made good money doing it, but ended up just being too much work for us in this stage of life. So we took that asparagus out, but while the asparagus was there, the soil wasn't getting amended like it should have been probably. And so now we got to work a little extra hard. We want to get mulch on here to help that soil life. We want to be putting compost in here to really work on the soil and get it loosened up. Things, especially root vegetables like potatoes, do so much better if they have loose soil to grow in. Spring is the busiest and often most stressful time for us. All the work in the garden, the baby chicks, and overall homestead chores and maintenance really kicks into high gear. I know even if you're not homesteading, others of you have jobs that might pick up in the spring. Maybe you have kids in sports, or you have other older kids graduating. In the last couple years, I switched from a full-time job plus homesteading to homesteading and running our own business. Either one of those can be really stressful. We used to feel like we were just totally drowning every spring, and it would really take a toll on us mentally and physically. We're getting ready to speak at the Food Independence Summit, and our main stage topic is about our journey to wellness. I think when most people think about health and wellness, they think of diet and the foods they eat first. We firmly believe that that is only part of it. Mental health plays a big role in how you're gonna feel physically. We started eating healthy homegrown food over a decade ago, but our real health breakthroughs didn't happen until more recently when we started paying more attention to our mental and spiritual health. It started with going through marriage counseling together, and then each of us have also gone through individual therapy as well. I know therapy is something that can kind of get brushed aside or pushed off, and it's just too big of a hassle for some people to just make it happen. And it got really bad for us to get us to the point where we actually went and got it done. And we don't want anybody else to have to get that far before they find help. We are genuinely happy to have BetterHelp as the sponsor of today's video because their mission is to make starting therapy easier. You just go to their website, answer a few questions, and you'll get matched with a therapist in as little as a couple days. It's all online too, so no needing to drive far to get to your therapist. We went all the way to Canada for our marriage counseling. They want to make sure you feel comfortable too, so if at any time you feel like you and your therapist aren't a good match, you can switch therapists at no extra cost. So go to betterhelp.com/morethanfarmers. The link is in the description to get started, and you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy.
Hey, these things are starting to turn a little bit. Look at that. Look, there's a pink one. White potatoes are, I would say, the most important crop in our garden. I depend so heavily on white potatoes. I find them easy to grow as long as you have the proper conditions for them anyways. They're easy to grow and you can just make them a million different ways. You can make fries, mashed potatoes, you can make hash browns. They're good for breakfast as well as lunch and supper. So I am pretty meticulous about taking care of my potatoes. In the past, the two biggest issues that we had was number one, tiny potatoes, and tiny potatoes don't store well, and the other was green spots. Historically, we used to just hill them with soil, and that's what a lot of people do, but I found that no matter how much I hilled them, it seemed there was still green spots on top for some reason. I don't know, did the rain kind of wash away the soil from the tops of the nice biggest potatoes that were up at the top? So we started hilling them one time with soil, and then next we put on a big hill of leaves. That kept the weeds down. It keeps the soil nice and damp and loose under there, which we really need. After this day of hilling the potatoes, I will have to do pretty much nothing for the rest of the year with these potatoes, so it's absolutely worth it.
Summer is coming on quickly. Next week is supposed to get up in the 90s. I'm not really looking forward to that kind of heat, but one thing I do love about the changing seasons is the changing tasks on the homestead. I went nuts at some of the other jobs I've had because it was just the same thing day after day. There's so much variety in homesteading though, and it keeps life a whole lot more interesting. There's also so much flexibility and opportunity to do things the way that it works best for you. You can choose what kind of animals to raise, which crops you want to grow, and how you want to grow them. I think a big part of having a successful garden and homestead is figuring out what really works for you and what gives you the most joy in the process.
We all think we're dying. It's really warm out here and this is a hard job, but we're almost done. We're determined that we're going to finish this before we go in for pizza.
After lunch, we still have a couple more big projects that need to get done. It is high time for the broiler chicks to get moved out on pasture, so I'm gonna do that right after lunch. Then Michelle still wants to thin the carrots in the garden up there. That is another one of our main staple crops, and so she really takes care of those, and she's gonna give some advice on how to grow the biggest and nicest carrots possible. I was out here barefoot earlier, and I would rather be that way, but there's a bunch of little thistles growing here. So I busted out the Jesus sandals again for the season. I absolutely love these sandals. They're barefoot sandals from Zero. They are thin, flexible, so it feels almost like I'm barefoot out here, but they keep me from stepping on those prickly plants. Before we move the chicks, I need to mow some grass where their pen is gonna go. Move, cows. Come on. I wanted to mow the grass down where the chicks are going to be for the first few days because they're still pretty small, so I don't want them to have to try to climb through the grass. The cows, I guess, thought since I opened that gate over there that that's their new paddock to be in, but that is not where they should be grazing next. So I actually do need to rotate them anyways. They were in this paddock up here in the front. They have eaten most of that down, trampled it, so I am going to move them to their next paddock. All that it takes for me to move the cows to another paddock for grazing is to close off the one that they're in and open the next one. All the paddocks are attached or are connected by one trail or one common area. Come on. These birds are looking really, really good. We have only lost one of them so far. They're actually about 4 weeks old now. They can be moved out to pasture when they're about 3 weeks, but at about 3 weeks, it was raining a lot and stuff, so I didn't feel like it was a good thing. So they've been here a little extra long. They're ready to be moved out now, and I'm just really pleased with how they're looking and how they're doing. Cowboy, get out of here. These birds will eventually end up in the freezer, but that doesn't change the fact that we want to give them the best life possible. Fresh air and sunshine is good for them, and I think you can just feel that it makes them happy. There you go, happy chickens! Food raised in a more natural, peaceful environment is even going to be healthier too, so it's a win-win. A lot of you already know this, but broiler chickens are a really good way to start raising your own meat. And I'd highly recommend these Rainbow Rangers because they still grow out really nice without being as finicky as the Cornish cross. Those Cornish cross birds can have more issues with diseases and stuff, and I don't feel like they do as well on pasture. They get big and fat, and they just sit by the feeder all day.
This is my carrot patch. I'm very happy with how my carrots germinated this year. Check this out. This is just a beautiful, solid row of carrots, which is how I love it. It's so funny because I used older seed from last year, and this is how these carrots germinated. And then this was a packet from this year. So it definitely makes a difference with carrots, like how old the seeds are. I am starting to more and more just feel like getting new seeds every single year, like just trying to get enough seeds, because I find that it's just very hit or miss whether seeds will germinate well that are a couple years old, especially if you are direct seeding them. If you're starting them inside, you can just seed a whole bunch in a little container and you can use the seedlings that come up. But if you're taking the chance of direct seeding, which I do a lot of direct seeding, it's best to have really good seeds. The variety of carrots that I plant are Danver Half-Long. I've been using these for, I don't know, years now. We have tried a couple different varieties over the years, and I always just come back to this one. They're nice and short, which makes so that they're very easy to pull. They're very easy to dig. They don't break off down in the soil. Broken carrots are not going to store, so we really can't have broken carrots. And I feel like for the size of the carrot, they still have a really good taste. Some people ask if our carrots are so big, are they really woody? I don't feel like the Danver Half-Longs are. They still taste really good. I will say I do prefer to use massive carrots, like storage carrots in soups and stuff. And then we like to eat the fall carrots that are a little bit smaller. Those are better for fresh eating. If you want to have carrots that will store all winter long in a cold room or a refrigerator like we do, you're gonna have nice big carrots. The ones that are really small are just gonna shrivel up a lot faster and they're not gonna store as long. And if you want those big giant carrots, you have to thin your carrots. If you would just leave a carrot row like this, your carrots would not get big. I know it can feel really hard and maybe even a little wasteful to pull up all these carrot seedlings to thin them to the point that I do, but it is just absolutely critical in growing a nice big carrot. Over and over and over, people are like, how do you get such big carrots? I thin them like crazy. I like to thin them to at least an inch apart, if not 1.5 inches to 2 inches. And as you can see, I'm taking lots of them out, tons of them out. You can get pelleted carrot seeds. Some people will so they'll mix radish seeds in with their carrots to sow them. You can totally do that. But for the amount of carrots that I want, we don't want that many radishes. So this is what I do. I think it works beautifully. You only have to thin once. It's time consuming, but you're done in an hour and you're good to go for the rest of the year. Carrot seedlings always look really pathetic right after you thin them. Don't get discouraged. They will perk up and like in a couple days, they will just start going nuts. Like when you give them that space, they will just take off. I really don't do that much with them. I thin them, let it rain, water them, they will be just fine. One thing that I have noticed is that carrots are pretty sensitive to weeds. So I meticulously weed my carrot seedlings. As soon as these carrot seedlings that were thinned stand up and look really nice and established, I am going to mulch them really heavily with leaves. That keeps all of the moisture in there, and it also keeps the soil nice and loose so that the carrot can get really nice and big. If you have rocky clay soil, you won't have nice, beautiful carrots. If you have like really rocky soil, they tend to be like really wonky. They still taste good, but they're kind of wonky. So I just like to do everything I can to keep the soil nice and loose for them. Lazy gardening is all over the internet these days, and while I totally understand the point behind the idea, I think it can be a bit deceiving, especially for beginning gardeners. This is certainly not me hating on the lazy garden method or the people who push it. It's just me being straight with you for just a second. If you're new to gardening and have the expectation that you won't have to weed or water or do maintenance with your garden after you've planted the seeds, you might be setting yourself up for some revelations. I grew up in a community where everybody had a garden. You were the oddball if you didn't have a garden. I watched people garden with all sorts of different methods, but in my lifetime, I have yet to find a person who told me that gardening is easy and painless. So while there are definitely things like mulching and rich soil that can make gardening easier, gardening still is going to require oversight and maintenance, in my opinion, especially if you want the best results possible. We are aiming for large, disease-free produce that can store all winter long. Produce with bug bites and fungus will not store in a cold room. Small root veggies with green spots won't store well either. So for us, we're all about putting in the work needed throughout the season to at least attempt the best results possible.
Well, I think one of Michelle's worst nightmares just happened. We pretty much ran out of leaves here. I think she's gonna go see if she can scrape up enough from what's left of that pile over there to finish this out. But a lot of it's mixed with dirt, so it will work to mulch some, but it's definitely not gonna do the best job at matting together and matting down and holding down the weeds. Or at least help. Might try to also get some grass clippings and put it on here. Anyways, if you want to see how all this carrot stuff turns out and you want to see last year's carrot harvest, we got a whole bunch. We got some really big ones. You can watch this video next. Watch where you're going. Watch where you're going. I said watch where you're going. You're almost to hit the garden shed.